Hey, welcome back to the channel. Got a few knives on the table today. In a recent video, I showed a couple of these knives, and one of the subscribers suggested that we do a comparison of the individual knives. So I had a bunch of uh, uh, modern slip joints slash traditional lockbacks like this in the video, and he said, "Hey, and I was comparing them just to traditional knives, and he said you ought to just do an individual comparison." So that's what we're going to do today. Should be pretty interesting. I threw in a modern folder there. This is eye candy. Mainly, we're going to be looking at this knife, and this knife. And this is a traditional, this is a modern slip joint, and this is a tactical lockback. So we're going to look at them and see, what they're like. Hey, welcome back to the Fortified Castle. Hi to all my viewers. Before I get into this, I wanted to show you a couple things. I've been customizing Rough Riders, and I got this little Rough Rider here, and was really trying to figure out what I want to do with this. I was gonna jig it, but I decided I had these little feathers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a feather on them and resin those feathers in there like that. Should look pretty cool. That's going to be an upcoming video where we do that, but I'm pretty excited about that. Couple cool looking feathers from when my cats had dinner, and that was the leftovers. And another thing I wanted to show you is I got this a couple weeks ago, and what it is it's an angle finder. These are really inexpensive. It was like $4.95, I think, maybe $3.95, something like that. But you take your knife and let's see, and you just put it like that, and you put your blade down in there, and you can see the angle on your blade. And so there it is. Works pretty good. So if you're curious about what your angles are on your knives, this thing works pretty good. It doesn't really work on little tiny knives like a slip joint, because the blades just aren't big enough. Let me show you that. So if you use a little tiny knife, it just goes all the way down. The blade's not long enough to catch this at the end for your angle. So, but for your big knives, it works really well, and it's inexpensive. I got a bunch of different type of angle finders, and they're just a pain, but this thing is really easy, and it works. So I just thought you'd like to know about that. So let's talk about some comparisons on traditional knives, modern lockback knives, and a tactical knife. Should be interesting. All right. So this is a really good comparison. In the previous video, I had a buck 110. This is a Imperial Frontier in mint condition. Pretty nice little knife. You could see the double eagle right there, and really nice knife. Not as nice as a buck 110, but they're pretty good. There's nothing wrong with these knives. They're definitely better than Pakistani knives. And I had this one in the video, and this is actually a slip joint, but it locks, so I'm going to show it. And the way it works is it has a liner lock that locks the blade. That's nothing new. You know, they were doing that back in the 1920s. They had locking blades on some of their slip joint knives. And the way you can tell that is if you hit your liner lock, the blade doesn't go anywhere. See, it's solid. You can press up against it. It's not going anywhere. It's controlled by a back spring. And so this is a slip joint, actually. But because it locked, I threw it in there, and it's a good comparison. I don't really know of a modern back lock knife, traditional back lock knife that's that size right there. And so this is one. That's why I threw this in. Maybe we could look at this a little bit. But this is a modern traditional back lock knife. You can see the attachment hardware. You can take this thing apart, and maybe we'll refer to that as we go through it. But you can see all of these are fairly big. So the Buck 110 clone here is 4 3/4. The ranch cold steel ranch box is 5 1/8. That's the biggest one. And then the cold steel, well, I'll take that back. Cold steel is actually 4 or 5 3/8. This is 5, by the way. Did I say 4? Yeah, it's 4 1/8. So this is actually bigger. It looks smaller. Yeah, you can see it there. It's bigger. So if you go like this, go like that, it's a little bigger. From side to side, I don't know. It's bigger. Just a different design. Maybe because it's black, it's kind of deceiving. So this is the smallest at 4 7/8 for the group of these knives. It's also the heaviest. So this is 7.4 ounces, which is about what a Buck 110 is. These are really heavy, old style knives that have a integral brass bolster liner. And so this is strictly a cover. That is, or actually an inset, not a cover. It's an inset that's put into the integral liner and bolster, and the liner is on the inside. You have a back lock here. These things are pretty tough. So I've never seen one of these back locks fail. That said, this is not as strong as the triad lock on that cold steel. So maybe some of you all have had the experience where these have failed. I can certainly see them failing. You have this long piece of metal. The only thing that really keeps this down and locked is this little spring inside here. Let me see if I could show you. You see it right there? So that little sliver of metal right there, and then you see a different color. That's a spring, and you can kind of see it. So that spring is what keeps the pressure up on your lock to keep it pushed down. And you release it by putting pressure on it like that. So that's a traditional back lock folder, how they work. Get some really nice, looks like Coca-Cola. Don't really know what that is, but could just be rosewood on there. Does have kind of an orange look to it, so could be Coca-Cola, could just be rosewood, but that's how those work. Pretty simple. I already showed you that this is a slip joint actually, but we're going to show it anyhow because it's a modern one that you can disassemble. And let's look at the blades. Well, let's look at the Recon one. I haven't looked at that. And so this is a thumb stud opener. It is a back lock, and it is a triad lock. So this is a super, super strong lock. I've seen cold steel put 600 pounds of weight on here and not break the lock. So they're really, really strong. I think that's not in dispute anymore. Some guys used to dispute it, but it's really not disputed anymore. And it is a modern tactical folder. But like I've used this, I didn't go around stabbing people. You may find that kind of weird, but it's not really what I do. So I use this to work. And I did some incredible things with this knife. It's S35VN steel, made in Taiwan. And this is a DLC coating on it. I don't know what they're doing now. This thing is 10 years old, so it's old, and you can see how the DLC coating has held up pretty good. I don't really see any place where it's scratched. I've not babied this knife. It's not a safe queen. This is a knife that I predominantly carried for at least 8 years. And then after that, I started carrying every now and then other knives. But this would have been in my pocket most of the time. And so it's held up really well. You can see it's ambidextrous. You've got a place there to move the clip over. It does have a clip. It is comfortable. Doesn't provide any hot spots. I have used this knife for a while, not just everyday use, but hard use. And that scraping right there, I did. So when you first get these cold steel knives, come on, snap in. You can see this checkered coating on here. It's very aggressive. At least it used to be. I don't know what they're like now, but it was so aggressive it would hurt your hand. And so when you had your finger up here, it really caused a problem on your finger. And all I did is just sand it down, and that problem went away. And now, of course, with the use, that it's very comfortable, and it doesn't bother you at all. Really good knife. All the advantages of a modern tactical folder. It's got attachment hardware, so you can disassemble this knife. I have disassembled it before to clean it, and you could take that pocket clip off if you don't like a pocket clip. It's a G10, no liner, but this is thick G10, and I've never had a problem with the strength on this knife. My favorite story is I was taking some banding off. I used to drive a truck, taking some metal banding off a crate so that they could get it off the truck. And I had a pair of 10 snips, but they were up in a cab. I was in a hurry. I had this, and I said, why not? I'll try it. And kind of stupid, but I slipped this underneath that metal banding and popped up on it, and it just sliced through that metal banding, and you can see no deformation whatsoever on the edge of this knife. Absolutely remarkable heat treat job on these knives. Couldn't recommend that knife enough. So that's a general overview of these knives. Let's I'm not going to show you. Okay, I weighed them. This is 7.4 ounces. I already told you that. The Ranch Boss 2 is 5.4 ounces, and incredibly, this is 5.4 ounces too. So these are really big knives. I'm not upset with a knife around 5 ounces that's really big and rugged. So I don't know what this weighs. It's hardly anything. It's about 3.5 ounces maybe. But that's kind of the weight. And the advantage, of course, is to the modern knives when you look at that and you look at the weight. All right, so let's open up the blades. There's kind of a surprise here if you open up the blades and check this out. And when you look at this blade length on that buck clone, overall it's 3 3/4 inches, but a little 3 3/4 inch overall length, and the blade is 3 1/4 inch. The cutting edge is 3 1/4 inch long. It's kind of surprising. That's a big knife, but it is smaller than these. And here's the surprise: is the Ranch Boss comes in with a 4 1/4 blade and a cutting edge that's almost 4 inches. It's about 3 7/8 the cutting edge on this. Really, really big blade. And when you look at the cold steel Recon, it's a 3 7/8 inch blade with a cutting edge of 3 3/4. So the blade on this is smaller and the cutting edge is smaller than this Ranch Boss 2. That's kind of surprising. And this is a little smaller than your cold steel Ranch Boss or your Recon one, but the blade is proportional, I think. I'm feeling like, I didn't check it, but I'm feeling like a buck 110 has a little bigger blade. Maybe the 110 is a little bigger than this right here. I've always kind of felt like the 110 is 5 inches, but I might be wrong on that. So that's kind of surprising. The steel in this is SK5. That's a Japanese steel. It's a good to go steel, but it's basically a 1095, right? That's the kind of steel it is. It's a high carbon steel, just Japan's version of 1095. Cold steel again. They've been using this SK5 for a long time, and I've used it in a lot of their knives and never had any problems whatsoever with them. So they're all pretty comparable. They're all good. But which would you rather have? So on the traditional folder, there's no way to attach that to your pants. So you'd have to use a sheath. So that is a really big turnoff for a lot of people. I don't really know why. I've carried a sheath I carried them when I was a little kid, when I was a young Marine, and pretty much all through my life, I still carry them. And I don't have any problem with a sheath. One of the disadvantages, I think, of a sheath is just your clothing, right? So when you have a sheath on, your shirt, if you don't tuck your shirt in, the sheath kind of gets in the way of that, and your shirt will ride up on this. And if you like, I like to just let my shirt tail hang out, especially when you're working, right? Then you've got to lift that shirt up to access your knife. So that is a disadvantage. But another one is in the winter when you're layering and you've got maybe ski pants on and a heavy jacket or something. It limits access to your sheath knife. But honestly, if you have this clipped in your pocket and you have ski pants on, you're not going to be able to access it. So really, I can see somebody arguing, your access is limited with a sheath, but I think that's really just, I don't know, I think it's overblown. And now, on a day like today, it's going to get up to 80 degrees. I got a t-shirt on, and it would be a lot more convenient to carry this knife that has a clip on it. You can see that's a well-worn clip. And this Cold Steel Ranch Boss, even though this is a great knife, there's something missing here. And it's a clip, right? There's no clip. So you have to use a sheath on the Cold Steel Ranch Boss. You could put that in your pocket. I don't like to put things as heavy in my pocket. It's going to poke around and hit your leg. Like if you're riding a horse, that thing just, is really problematic. And so same thing on a motorcycle or on a four-wheeler. So I just don't want to put a knife this big in my pocket when I'm out, working a fence line or taking hay out or for that matter on a job when I'm climbing around scaffolding, framing a house or doing a roof. So a clip is really helpful in those situations. But you can put this in a sheath. And so that's a really big disadvantage, though, that you don't have the option, because I know there are a lot of people who are going to want to clip that in their pocket or onto something, a belt, for instance, like a work belt or something like that. This one, this buck comes with a clip on it. And, then you got guys who just, they're not gonna put a knife down in their pocket. They want to have a clip, or they're gonna put it on a sheath. So it's just kind of, how the wind's blowing, what your real preference is. And the other thing is that even though this knife doesn't have a clip, these Buck 110 style knives do come with clips now. And they come in a lot lighter versions of a Buck 110. And so they're as light as these guys here, and they have a clip. And so if you really like that traditional format, yeah, you can get a clip on there. You can get anything nowadays, right? This is the golden era of knife making. Your dreams are answered by a multitude of manufacturers all over the world. And it's like we should have a knife supermarket. That's what we should have, a knife supermarket. Because we should just be able to go in and look at all the knives available and choose what we want. So, in the end, it's just hard to beat the utility, the functionality of being able to disassemble the knife, clean it, and put it back together. I've had, just so many things. Think about the things that have happened to you while you were using the knife. You spilled paint on it, or it's so full of guts you can't wash them all out from skinning something, or you fell overboard while you were fishing and it's soaked with salt water. Any number of different things that happen to you when you're carrying a knife. So I just love the option to be able to disassemble a knife. I don't really do it a lot. Every now and then, I'll pull a knife out and I'll say, man, work the blade, look down in there and say, wow, that thing's really dirty. And I'll go ahead and disassemble it and clean it. So it's not something I do a lot. I don't think a lot of people do, but it's a good option, and it's hard to beat that option. If you break a blade, yeah, you can't go down to the hardware store and get a blade and put it in there like you can other things, but you can write Cold Steel and you can get a blade from Cold Steel and put it back in there. simple as you please. It's a simple operation, very easy to do. And that's the advantage of these knives that have removable hardware. You just can't beat them. You can't beat them. And when you throw a high quality S30V and steel in there, wow. This, when I first got this knife was my first super steel knife. I got it for $99. I didn't want to pay $150 just for a knife that had super steel in it. It was $99. It was about the same price as other knives around that time, and so I got it. And the first thing I did is I went 3 weeks without sharpening that. At the end of 3 weeks of everyday use, that thing was still sharp. And I didn't want to take it all the way down because they can be hard to sharpen if you dull a super steel. And so I went ahead and sharpened it up at that point. All I did is I hit it on a ceramic rod after 3 weeks, and it was haircut and sharp again. And that's the beauty of those super steels. They're just fantastic. So, what else can I say in the comparisons? As always, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You can see I have all of them. And, that's an option for you to too, right? So if you're this traditional guy, I always encourage people to at least have one of these modern type of knives because they're really nice. You don't have to buy a bunch of them. Just buy one and try it out. And, maybe you stick this in your tackle box, or you throw it in the back of your truck, in a box to use. And you've got that option to take it apart, clean it really good, oil it up, put it back together, and throw it in the back of your truck again. And you just take this beautiful traditional knife and keep it in a sheath and carry it by your side, your trusty companion, just because they're so beautiful to have. So, or you could be the complete opposite. Maybe you're that tactical folder guy. Chances are you are. 70% of knives sold in the United States are these modern folders. And most people, who are around 20 years old, at least during the early 2000s, this is a knife they grew up with, and that's what they carry. So I'd say the same thing to you. Try one of these. Yeah, they're heavy, but they're really cool. And there's just something about using 2 hands to open a knife, the warm feel of the wood, the beautiful glow it has, the nice brass. And I'll tell you something else about these. They're great head knockers. So at 7 ounces, a lot of these knives that you see, they'll be all beat up right around here and right in here and right in here. And that's because people are using them to hammer nails in, because you can. They're that heavy. And man, you whack somebody on the head with that and you get instant respect. So they have their advantages, I guess. All right, so that is a comparison of some really good knives that come from very different places. Traditional, modern traditional slip joint, and a modern tactical folding knife. All of them are great knives, and of course, the book 110 and its derivatives been around a long time, and you just learn that these things are really reliable, and you like having them. And there's nothing wrong with the newer ones, though. Like I said, this thing has been beat on worse than most knives, and it's still ticking. And after 10 years, I have no reason to doubt that this thing wouldn't last somebody's lifetime and that they couldn't pass this down the same as you can pass that down. The difference is one's got soul. The other one's kind of Darth Vader-ish and doesn't really look soulful. So that's the advantage of these things right here. Look at that. Which one do you think looks better? This one. I don't care what you say. That looks better. Alright, thanks for watching the video. We'll see you in the next one.